Ask is an anime-style illustrator who is extremely famous and vastly studied, and for a good reason too. If you've seen her work, you will know why she's a master of light, color, and detail. Seriously, her art has that magic that just draws you in. Those soft, mesmerizing eyes, flowy hair, and those strikingly beautiful poses. It's like she's captured the essence of every character in the most magical way. So, I thought, what if I could break down some of her techniques and apply them to my own art? So, in this video, I will be attempting to do my first art study and break down some of Ask's works so I could implement even a teeny tiny bit of her techniques in my own works. I started by going through her art and wow, I just couldn't stop staring at it. Take this piece for example, the triangular composition, the saturated purple in the character's eyes and the cat, the dark red flowers. They draw your attention and the subtle background elements guide your eyes throughout the entire canvas. It's like the whole piece is telling a story. After collecting a bunch of references, I began analyzing the magic behind it all. How does Ask guide your focus? How does she stylize her characters? I even tried tracing the lines on her art to understand mainly how she draws the hair, the eyes, and the face. It turned out to be a nice exercise in understanding line weight and its usage. And then I tried to break down how she chooses colors. I noticed a trend in her color palette. She loves to use a kind of an analogous, complementary kind of color palette. It's like she creates harmony by choosing colors that are close to each other on the color wheel, hence analogous, and then throws in a few complementary shades which lie opposite on the color wheel to really make things pop. Genius. Don't worry, I'm not keeping all this goodness to myself. I'm going to share exactly how I applied these insights. First, I decided to do a full-on copy study. I sketched, outlined, and filled in flat colors. I give a grayish tone to the background and refine the sketch a bit more to match her style. Then came the fun part, adding shadows and lights. Ask uses simple shapes for lighting. I make some more color corrections, add the darker shadows to the light and dark areas wherever needed. And I also add the dominator. After some final details, I add the highlights. I also noticed that Ask adds chromatic aberration to her highlight. I also used Gaussian blur for the cast shadow behind her. This one was pretty easy to execute and helped me gain more insight into her rendering process. And then I did it again. Another piece, same process. But this time I paid close attention to how Ask uses line colors. The lines in Ask's artworks are similar to the objects they're outlining. I figured this result could be achieved with the use of having your sketch or your lines on the linear burn blend mode. I add gradients and other details to the base color. Then I add the shadows, but for the lighting, I chose the add blend mode. Proceeding in a similar manner, I added the dominator on various parts. I add some final details and minor color adjustments, add highlights, refine the eyes, and we're done. But the real challenge came when I applied everything I'd learned to my own original art. To do this, I made a sort of workflow guide so that I don't miss out any part. I went for a close-up character headshot. I start by using simple shapes for the face, hair, and clothing. After that, I add the rough colors. I switch the blend mode of the sketch to linear burn and add more hair strands, keeping in mind the triangular shapes and the flowy feel of hair in Ask's artworks. I add colors to the background and add variations to the sky color and the grass behind. I try to figure out a color palette that would be consistent with Ask's art style and choose colors like green, yellow and red that are on one side of the color wheel, making it sort of analogous, and I choose blue, which is opposite to all these colors on the color wheel. I add gradients to the hair, clothing and accessories and add some more color variation. Light and shadows are added in a similar way, but here's where I made a mistake. I shaped the hair wrong, which didn't give it a round or spherical look. So I tried to correct it. This looks so much better now. I smoothen out the edges between the light and the shadows, add irregularities to the hair in triangular shape, adjust the colors and add the dominator at the line between the shadow and the light region. While making this, I couldn't help but add some of my own rendering style. It's super hard to disconnect from your habits like that. I add more details and color variation, darker shadows and more lighting effects. I refine the lines, add details to the eyes, add highlights. I even added motion blur, chromatic aberration and some noise effect to finish it off. Here's the result. I tried doing a full body piece next to test how well I could simplify and make the process efficient, and let's just say it was a disaster at first. I spent way too much time tweaking the sketch and getting the colors right. The colors somehow were not working, but I still kept going on and on to the point it looked so off that there was literally no saving it. So I decided to attempt it again. I start by painting on the sketch. I realized that the colors I chose initially were not making sense in terms of their values. The colors of the clothes were way too saturated and attracted too much focus, whereas I wanted the eyes and the hair as the focal point. So I chose a little more desaturated color for it. For the color scheme, I used pink, red and blue, which are near to each other, and green, which is opposite to them on the color wheel. I added gradients and color variation to the hair and clothes. I followed the same lighting process. Shadows using multiply and lights using color dodge. I try to keep the shaping of the lights as simple and as expressive as I can. I add saturated tones at the edges of the dark and light regions to give the effect of light passing through. I add darker shadows to the light and dark regions to show the twists and turns of the character's body. I also focus on edge control, add some color variation, adjustments and refine a lot. Finally, I add the highlights to the body. To finish it off, I use chromatic aberration and add some more brightness to it using overlay layer and airbrush. And here it is. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or if you learned something new, don't forget to like and subscribe. Got any questions or feedback? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any artists you think I should study next, let me know. I'll see you in the next video. Happy drawing!